Best day of my life, in business life I mean, was the day I failed. The day I realized that my business is going to fail. That was the best day of my life. Now you might think that's crazy, right? I'll tell you what happened to me for real. It'll be in a few videos, my story, but pay attention because I'm taking you for a ride of a lifetime. But guess what? It actually happened to me. So here it goes. I was a taxi driver. Started driving taxis. My previous job to that was I was commission only sales. I was struggling to make money. If you don't sell, you don't make money. And when you're married, that's a bit difficult. You need a guaranteed income. So that wasn't working out. So I moved on and just got married, like I said. And things went on, and I spoke to a friend of mine. I said that things are not working out for me and I need to think of something different. He recommended I should do taxi driving. That'll give me cash job, cash in hand, self-employed, that kind of stuff. And I'll be making £300, £400, £500 a week, depending on the hours I put in. So I started taking that up. And after a while, I thought, my God, this is okay, compared to what I was doing. And until I find something different to do, I'll do that. So went then, plodding along. And then about a year and a half down the line, I didn't have my own taxi, so I had a crash, and the car busted up, and I had no job. So luckily for me, jobless, no money coming in. I was making good money, £400, £500 a week. Had an accident, and that's it. That was it. It was my fault as well. So that's the end of that. Car's gone, no money to buy another car, no job. So luckily for me, I approached one of my brothers, decided to help me out, and he lent me the money to buy the car. I was very lucky because I had no income. So he bought the car for me for £4,000 in those days. It was a 4,500, and started driving again. And after about 3-4 years of driving, of course I paid him off. 3-4 years of driving, I couldn't find anything else that could give me guaranteed income without too much stress. And it was nice to have a job where I was making a little bit of money, but without having to get up on the clock and going to sleep on the clock. I was self-employed. I was doing the hours that I kind of wanted to do and more, other than the weekends, which was a bit unsociable. But not spending enough time on my family in the weekends, but the money was great. And I had no stress, no pressure. That's the best part about it. I went out on the road, no bills to pay, no nothing regarding the thing, no premises to rent out. And I thought, oh my God. And no bosses shouting their heads off at me. So whatever I earned, I kept, and I gave them a cut out of what I earned. So they were getting about 15 to 18% of what I make, and balance I was keeping. So it was good. Then I thought, well, what am I going to do? I mean, is this it for the rest of my life? I wanted to do something different, even though this was a great break from working for somebody else and commission only. Trust me, it was different because it was cash on the hip, coming in, guaranteed money. I didn't have to worry about selling. I didn't have to worry about making the money, or the bosses are not going to pay me. This was guaranteed money. I knew if I went out, did 8-hour shift, 5 days a week, I got £400 guaranteed. I never had anything to worry about. I thought, any other business that I go into is going to have a heap of costs. I haven't got any money to set one up anyway. So we started thinking and said, okay, I spoke this with a friend of mine, and he suggested, there was about 15 taxi companies in our city at the time, and he suggested that, well, there's 3 of us. So we're paying all this commission and we know how this business runs, right? We've been doing taxiing and they've been doing it a lot longer than me. So collectively, we had about 25 years of experience amongst us. So they said, well, what is there to running a taxi company? Why don't we open one up? So for about 4 or 5 months, we toyed with the idea of opening one up and building it up, and then we'll have our own company. And we'll have so many drivers, and if we get to the level of, say, 50 drivers, we don't have to drive taxis anymore. We can each make £600 a week profit after the costs, and we can have more time with our families. Great. So we started looking into opening one up. And we found that it wasn't as easy as it appeared at first. We had to find premises, we had to get licenses, we had to go and do a lot of advertising to start this thing up from the scratch. So it was going to take a long time to get it to the level where we needed to be so we can come off the road and have a bit more time with our families. That was a 2 or 3 year stretch. We thought it's not going to work. And it's going to cost us a lot of money to get the company to where we need it to be. So we started looking at what's the second option. We buy one ready going. So we found out that we can pick one up for about 30, 40,000 pounds with about 25, 30 drivers, so around about £1,000 a driver. So after having a look around that for about 3-4 months, we found that there are a few available, and took us another 6 months to actually sit down with talks with a few of them to secure a deal with one of them, and we did. So we secured a deal with one of the companies. We bought one. Now, the sun began to rise on this day. The light began to appear at the end of the tunnel. I was, oh my God, we're actually going to make it now. Because I was thinking, my friends were thinking, what are the options? We can carry on driving as taxis forever. Don't want to do that, because if you don't work, you don't make money. Well, I don't want to do that. Go and work for somebody else? I don't want to do that either, because that means I'm going to live the whole of my life doing what he tells me to do. He chooses how much he pays me. He chooses what time I wake up, what time I go to sleep, what days I work, what days I have off, where I'm allowed to eat, and when I'm allowed to go for holiday, because he's controlling about how much he's paying me. No more. I've had it with working for people. I am not going to do that no more. And I was really sick and tired. Why should I go and work for someone else and make him rich so he can have what he wants out of his life, and I get nothing? What about me, my wife, my family, my children, my time with my kids? What about all that? Nah, I've had it. And I'm sick and tired of the rich controlling the whole thing for themselves. They want it all, and they go and sponsor the governments to get policies made to stretch in their favour to make it even more difficult for people like me to get through the ropes. I would what you would want to call a rebel. I was a renegade. I wanted to break the chains and get out of this. So I wasn't going to work for somebody else. No way. No way that's going to happen. And I can't drive taxis, which was the second best option, because that again limits me to my freedom, my financial freedom, choices, the things that I can do in my life. I'm still being controlled by the everything around the job. It was still controlling me. Like I said, if I didn't work, I didn't earn. I didn't want that. And I knew that not everybody in the world is like that. There are people who sit at home, make good money. There are people who've got big companies, and not everybody was born with a golden spoon in their mouth. I knew about that. My question always troubled me, how did they do it? And you go out to a big city and you see a guy driving around in a £100,000 car, and you have to scratch the pennies together to put meal on the table. How do these people do it? They can't all be doing illegal stuff, because they'd be behind bars. So the question was, how do they do it? Didn't know the answer. Anyway, plodded along with this taxi company, and after doing a little bit of advertising and trying to do all that we did, we went out doing leaflet delivery, advertising through people's doors, putting cards through, and trying to build this company up so we can go from 30 drivers, which is what we had when we bought the company, 28 drivers exactly, take it to the next level, 40, 50. We knew we needed 50 drivers. We can get to 50 drivers, and we can take 2-3 days off the road a week and work 2-3 days and make good money. At least now we've got our own company that's building, is heading to a direction that's going to release us from totally driving one day, and we have our own business. I can stay at home and spend time with my family while the business is making me money and getting my share of it. That was the plan, right? And then bang, all of a sudden drivers started leaving, and the staff left as well, and we couldn't understand why, and the work started going down. So we couldn't understand what's going on. So one staff left, and then a week later another one left, and then drivers were leaving in dribs and drabs, and we thought, I don't understand. We tried asking the drivers and the staff, and they're saying, well, some of them said, I just fancy a change. Okay, not that you've done anything wrong, but just fancy a change. It's okay. Try to convince them, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do the other, bring more work into the company, so stay here, don't leave us. I've just been working here for too long now, I just want to change, You can't answer that. So, okay, and some of them left without even explaining. So some of the staff left, or I just want a different shift. they were coming out with different reasons or excuses, if you call it, until we hit down to about 15 drivers. Half the drivers have left and about 2 staff left. Now me and my partners, we're having to fill the gaps for the staff so we can keep the company afloat. And some of us had to go on the road and try to get other drivers in, but nothing was happening, nothing was working. And we thought, wow, if this keeps going, we'll end up with about 7-8 cars, which will just be enough to run the office, pay the costs. Now I'm going to end up with spending all my time in the office to fill the staff shifts that are needed to run the company, and whatever little time I got left, I got to put on the road to make the income I need to keep my family afloat. I've ended up in a worse situation than I was in when I started. We didn't know any of that. We did everything we could see other companies were doing, like advertising, putting leaflets to people's doors and whatever you, and go and have a chat with the local pubs and get them to call us and whatever you, but then 10 others were doing the same thing as us. So work did drop off, admittedly, even though we were putting in a bit of advertising, but that didn't seem to push it up enough to keep the drivers and the staff on board. So after doing a little bit of a research with the drivers and the staff and other people in the company, we found out that we were new management in the company, and people get scared when they see new. They want to change. They're afraid of what they don't know, and they want to go to rather the things that they do know. They feel safer that way. Well, that was the beginning of the end of the dream. That's where I realized that there's more to running a cab company than just driving a cab. And we all began to realize that it's not long before the only drivers we've got left is the ones who know they can make more money with us because there's more work than drivers, because the drivers have left. And the only reason these drivers are not leaving is because they're making more with us, not because they want to stay with us. And that's what's keeping the company afloat. They're not here because they want to be here. They're here because they have to be here, and there's nowhere better to go. That was the beginning of the failure. Take you to the next video. That's when we began to realize that the business is going to fail. We'll explain the failure to you in the next video, and why it was the best day of my life when we realized that we are going to fail.